Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the sale. It would be great if I said my own name, right? This is Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, June 13th. And if you have not joined us before, I'm a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations to help them do one thing and one thing only: increase their sales, get measurable and sustainable sales improvements. And I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales, to give professional salespeople a place to hang out, network with each other. We're a group on Facebook with almost 1,600 members, by the way. Uh, Network with each other, learn from each other, and of course, learn to earn more. And if you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m., I typically do an interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. And when I don't do that, I do a live training. If you joined us last week, let me share with you, and you were joining us live. I had some technical difficulties. My slides, that I was doing a presentation and my slides were advancing on my screen, but I don't think they were advancing on yours. And if they were, they certainly did not advance on the recording. For those of you who only listen to this as a podcast, these are done live on Fridays at 10 a.m. and they broadcast to my LinkedIn feed, my LinkedIn company page, and to our YouTube channel, which is by the same name, the Sales Pro Network. I believe I've taken care of the technical difficulties, and today's presentation, you should be able to see the slides in real time. Now, if you're a Monty Python fan, and for those of you who are too young to know who Monty Python was, they were a British comedy troupe that was pretty wacky. And one of the things they used to say in their show was, "And now for something completely different." And today we are going to do something not completely different, but slightly different. So for those of you who know me, you know that for 50 years, I've been in sales, sales management, and for the last 20, sales training and sales coaching, owning my own firm, Jeff Goldberg and Associates. And for the last 20 years, I've worked exclusively with professional sales teams and individuals. And I've worked with companies that you are familiar with, like Cisco Systems and Siemens and Aramark and State Farm and Citibank. I've done this with companies all over the world. Sorry, just turning off my second phone because I forgot to turn that one off. I've done this with companies all over the world, and I love doing training with professional salespeople. I've also worked with a lot of what I'll call non-traditional salespeople. And to me, a non-traditional salesperson is anyone who has to sell as part of their job, but does not consider themselves a professional salesperson. So I'm talking about people like consultants, accountants, coaches, maybe attorneys. All those people are not professional salespeople, but if they don't sell, they don't eat. So for example, if you're a weight loss coach, you could be the best freaking weight loss coach in the world. But if you can't help people choose to do business with you, in other words, if you can't close them, you're going to starve, and you're going to be losing weight yourself because you're not going to be able to eat. So the reason I'm telling you all this is today is for the non-traditional salesperson. I have actually developed a program specifically for the non-traditional or non-professional salesperson, which is going to be starting in July 21st, actually. And it's a 12-week program designed specifically to help the non-professional or non-traditional salesperson gain more confidence, learn how to sell without being pushy, without being aggressive, and with 100% integrity by having better conversations. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a preview of that program. And I'm going to try to give you some good information that you can use, whether you're interested in the program or not. And at the end, I'll share with you some information on how you can find out more about the program if you are interested. So, haven't done it this way before, but I'm going to bring up my presentation, and I hope that as I'm speaking, that you will be able to see it as it advances. So this is the non-salesperson's guide to selling with confidence. And the name of the group will be, there is a Facebook group now called the Sales Confidence Lab. And the program that I'm talking about that starts July 21st is going to be the Sales Confidence Lab. So the first thing I want you to know is sell is a 4-letter word. But it's not a bad word. Many people, especially non-traditional salespeople, have a bad opinion about salespeople. They think you have to lie, cheat, steal, be pushy, be obnoxious. And many of them, if not most, have told me things like, I don't want to talk to people into things. I don't want to have to convince them of anything. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to be the best coach I can be, or the best accountant I could be, or whatever it is that they do. I don't really want to sell. Well, here's the good news. Even though I've got 50 years of experience, I don't sell anybody on anything. Now, I do take them through a sales process, but my belief is, even though I'm so good at selling that people pay me substantial amounts of money to learn how to sell from me, I don't believe I close anybody. I believe they close themselves. All I do is have great conversations with as many people as I possibly can to increase my odds of some of them saying, yes, Jeff, I'd like to work with you. So while sell is a four-letter word, it's not a bad word, although it often has a bad connotation. And the thing that you should remember is nothing happens until something gets sold. There's that old saying, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. I don't think so. Build a better mousetrap and either market effectively or get a bunch of salespeople to sell it for you. And that's how you're going to make a lot of money. Every business depends on sales to grow their business. And that's whether you're Apple computers or Microsoft or a one-person operation like myself, a coach. What you don't want to do, and what I know that non-traditional salespeople certainly don't want to do, is you don't want to be pushy. And I don't want you to be. Now, I know that many people listen to me and they have the thought in their head, oh, this guy's type A, he's a pushy salesperson, he's aggressive. I can tell you right now that while I may be type A, I don't come on that way to people when I'm selling. And I am certainly never pushy. Never, ever. I'm never aggressive with people. And again, I don't try to talk anybody into anything. I just have lots of great, very comfortable, very easy conversations that flow naturally, which allow me to have a conversation with them and be my authentic self, which is what I want you to be when you're selling, your true self, and allow them to make a decision about, based on this conversation, do I think Jeff can actually help me increase my sales? And that's what I want for you too, because selling is simply serving. Selling is serving. He died several years back. There was a famous motivational speaker named Zig Ziglar who said sell comes from the Swedish word sälja, and he spelled it S-E-L-J-E, and he claimed that meant, in Swedish, it meant to serve. Now, I love the thought of it. Turns out that it doesn't mean that, because I actually checked with Google Translate and it doesn't mean that, but I still love the concept. Selling is serving. When you focus on solving problems for other people, they choose to become your client. And it's also important to know that, of course, you need to know the skills and the tools and the techniques and the strategies for selling, but sales is also a mindset game. If you have the wrong mindset, it does not matter how good your tools are and how good your skills are, you still are not going to close business. And when I work one-on-one with salespeople, whether traditional or non-traditional, we work a lot on both the skill set and the mindset of selling. So the sales mindset is one, as I said, of coming from a place of service, truly wanting to help somebody else. And by the way, that means that sometimes when you meet with a prospect, you realize what you have to offer is not right for them. Now, the traditional picture of a salesperson means that even when you find out that what you've got is not right for them, you're still going to push to close the deal anyways. That's not service. A true salesperson who understands what they need to do and understands what they have to offer when they find a prospect that they know they are not right for, or by the way, if the prospect's not right for them, they let them know that. Now, it doesn't happen very often to me, but on more than one occasion in the last 20 years as a professional trainer and coach, I have certainly said to people, you know what? I don't think I'm right for you. Let me introduce you to somebody else who I think is right, because I know a lot. Look, there's a gazillion competitors out there. There's lots of sales coaches and lots of sales trainers. And I know several of them who I trust completely, who do things differently than I do, or work with different types of organizations that I do, or people that I do. And I'm happy to introduce a prospect of mine to one of them if that's right for them, because I believe in the acronym, which I've taught my kids from a very young age, ADTRT, which means always do the right thing. And that's how I suggest you as a non-traditional salesperson operate too. Always do the right thing. If you can serve people, it's your job to reach out to them and have conversations with them and try to serve them. And if you can't, let them know that too. Of course, part of the sales mindset has got to be positivity, because in most sales, we close less than 50% of the people we first speak with. Now, I have people all the time that tell me they close 80 and 90 and 100%. And my question for them is, well, where can I find your program? Because I don't do that. Now, the truth is, when I speak to people about coaching, 85% of those people do end up choosing to do business with me. But when I sell sales training to corporations or small businesses, 43% say yes, which means 57% say no. So more people say no to me about sales training than say yes. So I have to stay positive if I'm going to continue doing my job and keep seeking the people that are in the market for what I have to offer and who are right for me. So a positive attitude on a daily basis is part of the sales mindset. Confidence. Well, there's a reason I called this the Sales Confidence Lab. And that's because a few years back, I was sitting with a bunch of managers that I had trained and worked with very closely over a year and a half at their company. I was ending the engagement and I was asking them what went well, what didn't go well, what could I have done better, what did you like? And to a person, they said this to me: Jeff, here's what I like best. My salespeople now have more confidence. They feel better when they're speaking to people, and they sound better, and they're closing more business. Now, by the way, at that time, it never occurred to me in all the time I've been doing this that one of the things I do for people is give them more confidence. Apparently I do. So you need to have a confident mindset. And this program is designed to help non-traditional salespeople have that confidence. By the way, the reason most people who aren't professional sellers, and sometimes professional sellers too, don't have confidence is because they don't have a process. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't know the order to do it in. They don't know how to take somebody from hello, it's nice to meet you, to yes, we're going to do business and shaking hands. So you have to have that confident mindset. And by taking some type of training or reading a book or going to a seminar, it doesn't have to be the program I'm offering, the Sales Confidence Lab, but by investing in yourself and learning, you will become and sound more confident. You do have to have, as part of your mindset, resilience, because we do hear no more often than we hear yes. So you have to have the ability to brush it off and go, you know what? I'm one step closer to a yes, because the fact is, in sales, nobody closes 100%. And by the way, if you are closing 100%, that just means you're only going after the easy ones. Now, here's the thing. Excuse me. If you can close enough business by just getting the easy sales, awesome. That's great. But for most of us, we can't. I always love an easy sale where I speak to somebody and they say, yeah, let's do this, sign me up. But that doesn't happen that often. So you have to be resilient for when people say no, for when people won't take your call, for when people won't set an appointment with you, for when people meet you 3, 4, 5 times and won't do business with you. You have to have the ability to go, okay, that's one down. I'm one step closer to a yes. You do have to have a mindset and deep in your guts integrity. Now, the old feeling or the old view about salespeople is that salespeople are liars, thieves, and cheaters willing to say and do anything to take your money and put it in their pockets. That's not professional salespeople. Professional salespeople have integrity. So that has to be part of your mindset, as well as being goal-oriented. If you want to really serve more people and, of course, make more money, which is why most of us go into sales, even non-traditional sellers who don't go into sales on purpose but have something great to offer people, you need to be goal-oriented. You have to know what you're shooting for. How many clients are you going to have this year? How much money are you going to make? How many people are you going to serve? And finally, one of the things that's important is a mindset of accountability. As a solopreneur, which I am, I'm not accountable to anybody. I mean, you could argue that I'm accountable to my accountant and my ex-wife and her lawyers, but that's not real accountability. But even if you're a solopreneur like me, you can have an accountability partner that you get together with once a week, maybe even more often, but at least once a week, to make promises to each other and then check in the following week to make sure you kept your promises. And the reason for that is, for most of us, and I'm not accusing anybody, here's what I can tell you is true for me. I'm a pretty darn disciplined guy. I'm very goal-oriented. In fact, I co-authored a book on setting and achieving goals, and I know about accountability. But here's the thing. Even though I say that I have an iron will and that I'm disciplined, if I make a promise to you, I'd rather break my arm than break my word to you. But if I make a promise to me, I want to keep it, but I love me, and I'll give myself a break. And my favorite example of that is dieting. You know, I can't tell you how many times in my life I've gone, okay, I'm going to start that diet tomorrow, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the other thing. And maybe I'll say, let's say I'm going to start tomorrow, which is Saturday. And then tomorrow comes and, I'm going with my son to a barbecue festival here on Long Island. He and I love barbecuing. I think the two of us plan on stuffing our faces. So if I make a commitment today that I'm going to be on a diet and then tomorrow I go to a barbecue festival, it may be a little tough to keep that commitment to myself. But when you have somebody else that you make promises to, you tend to keep your word better to them than you will to yourself. So a mindset of accountability, all of these things, service, positivity, confidence, resilience, integrity, goal orientation, and accountability are part of the sales mindset. Now, I do sometimes get asked by people, well, Jeff, why should I know how to sell? I'm not a salesperson. I'm a coach, or I'm a consultant, or I'm whatever. Well, again, if you are great at your job, but you can't sell, it makes no difference because you can't serve people, even if you don't care about making money. And I don't really know anybody who doesn't care about making money unless you're already wealthy. And it seems like even already wealthy people still care about making money. But even if you don't care about making money, you should be coming from, in that case, how can I serve more people? If you're a weight loss coach, how can I help more people get healthy? If you're a transformational coach, how can I help more people become the best version of themselves? So the truth is, we're all selling. We're pitching ideas to our boss if we've got a boss, getting your kids to do just about anything you're selling them. You want to go out with your wife or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, whatever, maybe all four. You want to get them to go out on a date with you on a certain night or do something. You're selling all the time. It just doesn't feel like selling. So what we want to do is we want to serve more people. You want to help more people benefit from what you have to offer. Again, you could be the best coach. I could be the best sales coach in the world. But if I'm not helping anybody, it doesn't do them any good. It doesn't do me any good. It's good for me because I know how to sell, but I'm not doing what I'm committed to doing, which is helping as many people as I possibly can on this planet make more money by serving more people with integrity. And finally, the reason you should know how to sell is because you're going to have greater satisfaction. You're going to feel better when you know how to sell because you're going to have that confidence when you're speaking to prospects. And if you are interested in dollars, you're going to earn more of those. So we drive growth through successful sales skills. So what is selling? Here's the fact. Sales is a conversation or series of conversations leading to help the other person choose to do business with you. Here's what sales is not. And this is what most people think sales is, but it is absolutely not. Sales is not about convincing. Sales is not about persuading. Sales is not about talking into things. And it's definitely not about being aggressive or sleazy or annoying or deceptive. It's not about any of those things. You actually owe it. I believe that you are doing the world a disservice. Anybody who needs what you've got, I don't know why I keep using this example, but I love it, a weight loss coach. You owe it to people who want to get in shape, lose a few pounds, be more healthy, look better, whatever they're trying to. You owe it to those people to reach out to them and have conversations with them and try to help them get involved with what you have to offer so that they can do what they want to do, look better, be more healthy, attract more people into whatever it is. And you owe it to yourself. Unless you're already financially set, you need to make money. And, I often say that you could have the best excuses in the world. I hate selling. The economy's bad. There's a million excuses to come up with. But here's the thing. At the end of the month, if you don't make the mortgage payment, if you don't make the car payment, your bank doesn't care about how many excuses you have. They're going to come and take the car. They're going to come and repossess the house. You're going to get foreclosed. So you owe it to the world to learn how to sell and to reach out to potential clients so that you can help them become involved with what you've got and get the benefit of what you have to offer, and so that you can earn more money. And we want to focus on them. One of the biggest mistakes you can make as a salesperson, professional salesperson or a non-traditional salesperson, is focusing on yourself. And by the way, that's how the typical salesperson does it. Here's my best rule that I'd like you to take away from today if you take away nothing else. In any given situation, any given selling situation, think about what the typical salesperson would do, the average salesperson, and do the opposite. Because the typical salesperson, this is a technical sales training term, by the way, the average typical salesperson sucks at their job. Now, that's good news for me because I trained them to be better, but the typical salesperson is not good at their job and they focus on themselves. Let me tell you why Jeff Goldberg and Associates is the greatest training and coaching firm in the world. Well, that's a focus on me, but guess what my prospects care about? Not me. They care about themselves. In fact, about 45 minutes ago, my phone rang. I was I had just gotten on a Zoom call, but the other person hadn't shown up yet. So I answered my phone. Turned out to be a good thing because it was somebody who had found me on a website, not my website, but found me on another site and was looking for in-person training on Long Island. I happen to live on Long Island. I happen to do in-person training. Unfortunately, I had to tell this gentleman, somebody just popped onto a Zoom meeting, which I've already scheduled. Can I call you back? But that kind of thing happens. And you can bet that when I speak with him at 1 o'clock today, I am not going to be focused on me because he's not interested in me. Now, when I say that, I don't mean he's not interested in me at all. He called me because he's interested in training for his team to make them better at selling and maybe prospecting. I don't know what he's really looking for yet. But he's not interested in everything about me. He's interested in himself. He's going to want to learn some stuff about me and what I have to offer him. But this call is going to be focused on him, what he's trying to accomplish, what he wants, what his challenges are, and his sales team's challenges are. So when we're selling, we focus on them, not ourselves. And we want to make sure that we invest the time up front at the very beginning of the sales process to build trust and rapport with them. Because many things have changed in the 50 years since I started selling, but one thing is not, and that is that unless they have no other option, people will do business with people they like and trust. So it's crucial that in the beginning of a sales conversation, we work on creating a positive and genuine connection with people so they start to feel comfortable about potentially making a buying decision with us. And remember, we're not trying to convince people, we're trying to help them choose. So what we want to do is have a conversation. Again, sales is simply a conversation or series of conversations in which you hopefully are able to help the other person choose to do business with you. And at some point, we're certainly going to talk about us a little by offering our solutions, by having a conversation with them and then eventually saying, based on what you've told me, here's how I can help you. And we're going to provide value. If they have any pain points, we're going to address those. If they have a particular need or whatever their goal is, we're going to talk about those. And we're going to offer solutions specifically for them. There are three main traits, by the way, of all great salespeople, whether they're professional or non-traditional. First of all, the best sellers ask the best questions. Sales is not about your pitch. It's not about what you have to say to them for the most part. It's about asking great questions, which helps you find out what they want, what they need, what their challenges are, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. So you've got to learn how to ask great questions. And of course, in the Sales Confidence Lab program, we'll be focusing on that a lot. You have to be an effective listener, or what I call an active listener. And most people are horrendous listeners. Salespeople, non-salespeople, human beings. We're pretty much focused on, I wish you would listen to me. I'm not so interested in you. Now, we don't say that consciously, but we're usually not good listeners, and you need to be a good storyteller. The three traits of all great sellers are great question askers, great listeners, and excellent storytellers. Now, there are some principles of communication which are important to know, because as sellers, and again, I'm going to stop saying traditional or non-traditional for the most part. I'm talking about sellers in general here. When I say sellers, I mean anybody who has to sell. So there are three principles of communication that are important to understand if you're going to sell. And the first one is that we set the tone of the conversation. So if you are in a bad mood in the morning and you start calling people, maybe you're cold calling to get appointments, and you sound angry, you sound upset, well, that's going to influence the way the other person talks to you. But if we're in a pleasant mood, if we have a smile on our face, if we have a good attitude, if we sound cheery, we have a much better likelihood of the person on the other end responding quickly. In kind, responding in the same way. If we sound angry, they're going to give us a hard time. If we sound happy, there's a better than average chance that they'll have a better conversation with us because we set the tone of the conversation. Next, it's important to understand that if you've been in sales for more than 2 weeks, you've probably heard every rejection you're going to hear, every objection or rejection that people are going to give you. And again, I don't care whether you're in professional sales or a non-traditional sales. If you've done this for 2 or 4 weeks, you've heard everything that people are going to tell you, if you've spoken to enough of them, because there are not 50 things people tell you when they're not going to do business with you. For most people and organizations, there's 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5. And that's good news, because if you know and can anticipate the things that people are going to say to you, you can be prepared to help guide them through the sales process in an easy, comfortable way, because you're already anticipating what they're going to say. And I promise you, There aren't a million things that people say. It's pretty easy to figure out in advance what somebody's going to say to you. And finally, the third principle of communication is that as a human race, we communicate through stories. It's just who we are. If you have a husband, a wife, a daughter, a son, a boss, somebody who works under you, let me ask you this. When they're speaking with you, do they ever get to the bottom line, or is everything a story? Now, I can't hear you guys, but I'm betting if some of you are listening, you just said, yeah, everything's a story, Jeff. Why is that? Because everything is a story. Look, I love storytelling. I do it all the time. I love people listening to me tell stories. And in sales, part of what we do is have to tell stories because stories make things sticky. And stories should be relatable. And there are a couple of types of stories that you have to tell to a prospect. One that paints a picture in their mind of them already having the benefit of what you have to offer, and another called a verbal truth story, which helps them get past the automatic thing that goes on in their brain that says, ooh, what if I go with Goldberg and make a mistake? What if I buy XYZ? What if I invest in this coach or work with this accountant and I get screwed by the IRS? Our brain does that naturally. So when we tell stories, a certain type of story called a verbal truth story, it helps people get past that automatic thing that happens in their brain. So we set the tone of the conversation. We can anticipate what they're going to say back to us, and we want to make sure that we learn how to tell good stories. Now, the typical sales process, and this is the sales process that almost all salespeople use. It's a 4-step process, and it starts with opening the conversation. Whether you do it over the phone or via Zoom or in person, you have to start a conversation. And the purpose is to build rapport and get a connection going. Next comes information gathering, asking questions. We want to understand their world and what they're trying to accomplish. Then we're going to make a presentation showing them what we have to offer, how what we do can benefit them. And then we're going to ask a question that hopefully secures agreement to do business with us, which in professional sales we call closing, and we're going to call it the same thing in non-traditional sales. The truth is, I don't like the word close at the end of the process. I actually like the word open, because when you close someone, or if you like to say it the way I do, when someone chooses to do business with you, in other words, when they close themselves, then what they've done is you've opened up a new relationship. But since we use open at the beginning of the process, we can't use it at the end too. So the 4 steps are: open a conversation, ask for information, ask questions to gain information, present, and close. And that's how the typical salesperson sells. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying there's a better way. I know this actually works sometimes because that's what most salespeople do. And the typical salesperson, even if they're bad at their job, occasionally close a sale, but there's a better way. Now, for those of you who are watching live, you can see a slide here that talks about the sales process, and it has a bunch of stars. It shows the OIPC, open the conversation, gather information, present, and close. And for those who are listening on the podcast, you can't see this, but in the P section, the present section, there's a bunch of stars. And some of the stars are filled in. There's about, 20 stars, and about 5 or 6 of them are filled in. The 5 or 6 that are filled in represent the things that are important to the prospect, the things that make sense to them, the reasons they'll do business with you. But all the other stars represent all the other things that you can tell people about what you say and what you do and how you help people. And that's how most presentations go. We tell everything about everything that the prospect could possibly want to know. But most of the time, we're boring the prospect and giving them useless information. The prospect is only interested in the things that they're interested in. But if we don't ask the right questions, we don't know what they're interested in. That's why questions are the key to selling. In this example that the people who are watching live, or if you're watching on the replay and watching the video, those 5 stars that are filled in, those represent the 5 things that will help this person choose to do business with me. So I'd rather find out what those 5 things are than tell you everything about everything and possibly waste your time and mine, because you're never going to find out what it is you really want to know. And if we don't do that, then you got to be a strong closer. I'm not here to teach you how to be a strong closer. You don't need to be. And when I say a strong closer, I mean a pushy closer. And I can tell you this, I know how to be a pushy closer, because almost 50 years ago, I sold Encyclopedia Britannica for 8 years. Now, for those of you who are too young, that was a set of books that people would buy for their kids, or they would send them to the library to use, because it had all kinds of information. Nowadays, we don't have it anymore because the internet pretty much replaced it. And by the way, I think Britannica is still online, but you can Google anything, or you can use ChatGPT to find out about anything. So encyclopedias are done. But here's why I'm telling you this. Almost 50 years ago, when I started selling Encyclopedia Britannica, almost 5 decades ago, it was a $2,000 set of books. $2,000, 50 years ago. And you could send your kids to the library to use it for free because every library had Encyclopedia Britannica. Why am I telling you this? It was a one-call close. When we went into somebody's house because they were interested in Encyclopedia Britannica, really all they wanted to know was the price. And we would never give the price without giving the presentation because we knew if we gave the price first, they would say, oh, no, that's too expensive. Once somebody saw the value, the benefit by seeing the presentation, often they bought. But we certainly knew they weren't going to if we just gave the price. And we also knew that if they did not buy from us the first night or day that they met us, they were never going to do business with us. They were never going to call us up the next day or a week later, a month later and go, yeah, I've thought it over. I'd like to give you $2,000 for a set of books that I can send my kids to the library to use for free. It just didn't work. So my point is, I know how to be a pushy closer. It worked 50 years ago. Today's consumer on both the commercial side and the industrial side, I'm sorry, the commercial and the consumer side are better educated. The internet really leveled the playing field. So we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to try to talk people into things they don't want or need. What we want to do is have a structured sales process so that we can lead people through it, have great conversations with them, and have enough of them say, sounds good, sign me up, I want to work with you. In the conversational sales process, we're still going to open and establish rapport. We're going to do a lot of conversational information gathering by asking great questions in a natural and easily conversational way. We're going to confirm the answers, which most salespeople don't do. And by the way, this is the easiest step and the quickest step. We're going to present a solution for them, sharing with them based on what we've heard from them. Here's what we can do for them. We'll negotiate if we have to, and then of course we're going to ask a question that hopefully gets them to agree to do business with us. It's important to also know that people buy from people that they like and trust, and we have to avoid being unlikable. People buy from people they can relate to, people that feel comfortable with, and trust. You know, if I had to choose between the two, like and trust, the trust is actually the more important one. In fact, I had a client of mine who argued with me when I taught his sales team this at a break after I taught his sales team that, you know, people buy from people they like and trust. He came to me and said, hey, Jeff, I didn't like what you told the team. I don't care if I like you when you're trying to sell me something. I do need to trust you though. I disagree, and I don't like arguing with clients, but I did push back. Here's what I'll say to that. Yes, the trust is the more important of the two. But it's not good if you're unlikable because, again, people typically have choices. Look, there's other sales trainers. There's other sales coaches. There's almost definitely other people who do what you do. If you have no competition, you can be as unlikable as you want. If people need what you've got, they have to come to you. But that's not the case. So we have to remember people buy it from people they like and trust, which is why we work hard in the beginning to establish rapport with them. And we do that by talking about their favorite subject, which is themselves. We ask a question or questions designed to get them open up about who they are, what they're about, and that's so that we can learn about them. But really, it's because when people are talking about themselves, which is their favorite subject, on an unconscious level, they start to think differently about you. They start to think, instead of, wow, here's a salesperson trying to sell me something, they start to think, wow, this guy Jeff seems to be interested in me. I think I like him. Now, that's not a conscious thought. That's an unconscious thought. But I'm telling you, that is how it works. So we want to be genuinely interested in them and listen actively to them when they talk about themselves. We also want to make sure, in order to have better conversations, that we're going to use what I call softeners. And a softener is a word or a phrase that you put before a question, which softens the question and makes it into a more conversational. Examples of softeners are, I'm just curious, by the way, incidentally, out of curiosity. Softeners, which I put before almost every question, creates comfort in the prospect's mind because it doesn't feel like an interrogation. You know, when you interrogate people, they tend to shut down. Think about a criminal being interrogated by the police. Is a criminal who's getting asked questions by the police about the jewelry store that they just robbed going to answer honestly and go, yeah, I needed some money and I decided to rob a jewelry store? No, they're going to shut down as quickly as they can because they don't want to go to jail. Well, it's similar with prospects. If we interrogate, they shut down. But when we get into a genuine conversation, and softeners will make your conversation more genuine, they tend to open up, which is exactly what we want. And we have to be prepared for the opportunity by clearly explaining what we do in a way they can get it. We have to have what's called a value proposition. For those of you who are non-traditional sales people, you may not have heard that term before. Your value proposition is, here's how I help people like you. Here's how I help organizations like you. Here's the value I bring to the table. You also need what's called an elevator pitch or a brief commercial, because that's part of the conversational sales process. If you've networked, you know what a brief commercial is. If not, it's typically less than a minute. By the way, sometimes it's called a 30-second commercial. And in that, you're going to give brief highlights about, here's who I am, here's how I help people like you. And you also want to put in anything that says, here's what makes me special, here's what makes me different. In developing a brief commercial, you have to be able to answer the questions: what do we sell? What makes us different? And why do people choose us? And I love to include, while we may not be the cheapest option, here's why people do business with us anyway. So developing a great brief commercial is essential in networking and in selling. And again, it's, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's the value we bring to the table, and here's why we're worth the money that we charge. And of course, when I train people, and in the training that's going to take place in the Sales Confidence Lab starting July 21st, we're going to be going through all of this. Each session is going to focus on one piece of this process. There's going to be role playing. There's going to be, you're going to be talking to each other about it. I'm going to be coaching people live. It's going to be, I'm more excited about this than any program I've put together in the last 20 years. I'm really excited to get going with this. Now, I told you a couple of times already that asking questions is the key to selling, and here's why I believe that. If you ask the right questions and listen actively to the answers, your prospect will tell you everything you need to know in order to help them choose to become your customer. In other words, you don't have to be a sales genius. Just ask great questions and listen to the answers. That's the key to selling. People will tell you what you need to know in order to help them become your customer. So we want to be a good interviewer. We want to ask great questions. We want to establish credibility, and your brief commercial, if you put it together properly, should support that. We want to make sure that we're sending the right nonverbal messages when we're selling. We want to be genuinely interested in them. We want to clarify when they give us if we ask a question and they give us an answer we don't understand, we want to ask for clarification. And we want to use both open-ended and closed-ended questions. If you're a non-traditional seller and you're not familiar with those terms, an open-ended question cannot be answered with yes or no. A closed-ended question can only be answered with a yes or no. So typically in sales, we use a lot more open-ended questions because we want to gather more information. But when we're asking for a sale or we're doing a trial close, we ask a closed-ended question because we want a yes or a no. Listening skills. We're not going to cover exactly how to do everything in active listening today, but I do just want to tell you that there's a reason why we have to actively listen. When we listen, we learn. And what we learn is what they want from us. Whether we can help them or not is besides the point at that moment, but listening helps us learn what they actually need, what their pain is, what their challenges is, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. Active listening shows people that you care about them. And that feels good to them. It helps to increase rapport. And active listening is where you're going to uncover what it is that they need and and that way you'll see what you can do for them. Most people do not listen well. You know, if you're watching this live, there's a picture on your bottom right of, a young lady looking at her phone while a bunch of people around her are working and talking. Well, she's not listening. If she's listening at all, she's passively listening. If you've ever sat with your kids at dinner and they're on their phones the whole time you're talking to them, that doesn't feel good. Passive listening doesn't work. Active listening is very different. Imagine you're on an airplane and you're flying across the ocean and something goes wrong and the flight attendants come out and re-explain the safety procedures. You know the safety procedures that they give you when they close the doors on a plane? They show you how to put on a seatbelt and that the oxygen mask is going to drop down in case of a loss of cabin pressure. I don't know about you. I don't listen to that speech. I've heard it a gazillion times because I've done a lot of travel for business. I could do that speech, so I don't listen to it, but I can promise you this. If I was on a plane flying to, I don't know, London or someplace like that, and there was a problem on the plane, and the captain said, "Hey, we're having a little problem. We might be in some serious trouble. Your flight attendants are now going to come out and review the safety procedures." Well, I'm damn well going to listen very actively because my life might very well depend on it. And your life does not depend on it when you're selling, but your livelihood does. Your money, your ability to serve more people and feed yourself and your family depends on you actively listening. And the truth is, people barely communicate. Most people don't communicate well. And when we communicate, it's important to understand, especially as salespeople, that people are judging what you're saying and understanding what you're saying based on the words you choose to use, the tone of voice you have, and your body language if they can see you. And again, we're going to go into this more in depth in the program that starts July 21st. In order to be a better listener, you want to maintain eye contact with people, unless, of course, you're on the phone. Maintaining eye contact actually helps you listen and helps the person that you're listening to understand that you're listening to them, and that feels good to them. You want to use your listening face. You want to have a look on your face that looks like you're listening. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. And you want to minimize distractions as much as you possibly can. A sales conversation should be a very Zen moment, a very in this moment. There's nothing else that's important at those moments. Now, I've said this many times. There's nothing more important to me in life than my 3 children, my dog, and my integrity. Those, well, actually 5 things, because I have 3 kids, but 3 things. My kids, my dog, and my integrity are the most important things in the world to me. But when I'm talking to a prospect, nothing is more important to me than them. Now, I'm kind of lying because there's never anything more important to me in the world than my children. And I'm not going to break my integrity for any prospect either, but I think you get what I'm saying. We want to make sure that we minimize distractions so that we're paying attention to them, because at that moment, they are should be the most important thing in your universe. You want to keep an open mind when you're listening. Don't prejudge people. Never, ever interrupt them. That's rude, and you could be stopping them from saying the thing that you need to know in order to help them choose to do business with you. You should maintain an open body posture because that helps you be a better listener, and it shows them that you're listening better. And when we need to, we ask clarifying questions to confirm that we understand. Now, the confirmation step, again, if you remember at the beginning of this, I said it's the quickest step and the easiest step, and most salespeople never do it, professional or non-traditional. When you ask for confirmation after you've asked all your questions and they've given you the answers, you're simply trying to confirm that what you heard was what you think you heard. You want to confirm that you heard accurately. And all you have to do is take the information that they just gave you and say, if I heard you right, what you told me was, and then you give a brief recap of the things they said to you. So in my world, it might be, well, Bob, if I heard you right, you've got 22 salespeople. They suck at getting appointments. They can't get an appointment to save their lives. They are okay at selling, but not very good. Their closing ratio is way too long. Their sales cycle takes way too long. And when they do close business, they can't negotiate to save their lives. So they're giving away money all the time. Is that about right? So I will go over what I think they told me, and I'll end it with, is that about right? Or are we on the same page? And I'm either going to get confirmed. They're either going to go, yeah, Jeff, that's what I said, in which case I now have good information on which to base my proposal, or they're going to correct me. If I say something incorrect, they'll correct me because that's human nature. The beauty of this technique is either way, we win. Either we are correct with our information, or they give us the right information, and we now have good data, good metrics, good information on which we can then base our proposal to them. Now, when it comes time to present our proposal or our plan or what we're going to offer them, there are 4 elements that I think are essential. One is a sense of excitement. This is not the time to be boring. Now, I don't mean that when you're presenting your solution, you've got to be over the top like a radio DJ, like, hey, it's Jeff in the morning with you, news and traffic next. You don't have to be that guy. But if you're not excited about what you can do for somebody, if what you have to offer doesn't excite you, it's not going to excite them. So, you have to put in some level of enthusiasm. And by the way, people don't part with their money. The people don't become your client unless they're excited about working with you. So we want to make sure that we have some passion for what we're offering. And again, we're going to go into more detail about how to do this in the program. We're going to talk about both features and benefits. Features are what something is. Features are the characteristics or traits of what you have to sell. Benefits are how you solve problems. Benefits are what something does. Now, here's the cool thing. We're going to sell both the features and the benefits of what we have to offer every time. But people are really only buying the benefits. They don't care much about the features. They need to know them, but what they're really listening for are the benefits. In sales, we call that the WIFM. WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. And my friend Peter Ekstrom, who's watching this live, who's an old sales dog like me, remembers that acronym, the WIFM. Some of you who are too young may not, but that's what people are listening for. If I do business with Goldberg, what's in it for me? In other words, if any of you decide, I want to be in this program with Jeff, I want to invest 12 weeks with him, and I want to have more confidence in selling. Well, what you want is the WIFM. It's what's in it for you. It's not the investment that you're going to make of time and money. And by the way, I think I've priced it incredibly, it's not free, but it's incredibly reasonably, but it is something. So you're going to have to invest some time. You're going to have to invest some money in yourself. But I'm 100%. I always say there is no more than 100% because 100% means everything, but I'm 1,000,000% convinced this program is going to provide outstanding value for anybody who registers, shows up, and actually implements it. That's the challenge for me. I can teach you all the greatest techniques in the world, all the easiest techniques in the world. I can tell you exactly what to do, but if you don't do it, that I can't help you with. But I know for a fact this is going to work. In fact, I'll share this again in a couple of moments when we close, but I'm offering a money-back guarantee. If you sign up for this program, and it's a 90-day program, but after the first 30 days, if you don't like what you're hearing, if you don't feel you've got an outstanding value and that you believe that the other 60 days are going to be worth it, all you have to do is email me and say, hey, Jeff, change my mind, would like my money back. There's not going to be an argument. There's no discussion about it. It's like, here you go, money back. Can't do better than that. And the last element of a presentation, by the way, is a verbal truth story. And I started to tell you about storytelling earlier. A verbal truth story is a story about somebody else like you, Mr. or Ms. Prospect, who did business with me and lived happily ever after. So we want to show our enthusiasm. We want to make sure that we're conveying how excited we are about what we have to offer them and that we want to work with them. We want to talk about the features and the benefits, and we want to make sure that we tell a story about somebody else that you've worked with in the past, how it worked out well because of brain science. The way the brain works when we're making a buying decision is it does what calls, it goes to the negative first. It's called, the brain goes to the negative. In other words, instead of going, oh, wow, I'm so excited, I want to do business with Jeff Goldberg, this sounds great. What typically happens is, well, what if I invest this money? And what if I invest this time and it doesn't work out? What if the guy who I'm speaking to at 1 o'clock, let's say he closes today. By the way, I don't usually close on one call for a sales training gig. It's usually 2 or 3. But let's say he closes today. Part of that conversation in his mind, I know he'll be thinking of, should I do this thing? Is it worth the money? What if I do this and it doesn't work? If he wants me to teach his people how to sell, excuse me. What if I hire Goldberg and they don't sell more stuff? And by the way, this is not good or bad, and it's not right or wrong. It's just the way the brain works. Your brain is trying to protect you, and your prospects' brains are trying to protect them from making a bad decision. We don't want to look bad. We don't want to look stupid. We don't want to lose money. So our brain is trying to protect us. So when we tell a verbal truth story, it helps to get people from, what if I make a mistake, to, oh, this worked out well for somebody else, so maybe it'll work out well for me too. And the elements of a good verbal truth story typically start with a similar client situation. You know, your story, what you just told me, reminds me of a client of mine, the XYZ company. You give them a description of what their problem was, which is similar to the problem of the prospect that you're talking to. You tell them how you solved their problem, what you did for them and how it worked out, and you tell them about the happy ending. At that point, the prospect's brain starts switching from, God, what if I work with Goldberg and it doesn't work out, to, oh, it worked out well for them, so maybe it'll work out well for me too. And it lowers their resistance and allows them to be in a better position to choose to do business with you. I'm watching the clock. We're quickly running out of time, but I think we're okay here. In the Sales Confidence Lab program, we will talk about negotiating. I'm not going to talk about it very much right now, but on the screen, for those of you who are listening on the podcast, which this will get turned to in a week or so, it says, don't negotiate. Don't negotiate. Now, I don't really mean don't negotiate. What I mean is, if you negotiate, you better know how to do it well. And I also mean that you don't want to do what most people call negotiating, which is actually discounting. Discounting is not negotiating. Discounting is giving away money to get a sale. That's not negotiating. In a negotiation, if you give something up, like a better price, you get something back, like maybe a longer engagement. I'm just making up examples here. 90% of the time, it's unnecessary to give away money. People negotiate money away right and left. And by the way, this is what even a professional, remember, this is for non-traditional salespeople, professional salespeople, they give away money like it's crazy when they don't have to. They think they have to because it's the first thing they'll do when they get resistance. The first thing the typical salesperson does when they get any buying resistance is they drop the price because they think it's all about the price. I'm here to tell you, it's almost never about the price. Never. Now, I mentioned earlier that I get paid pretty well for doing what I do, for coaching people one-on-one, for training companies. I get paid pretty well for that. But I can tell you there are companies and individuals that charge way more than I do. I'm talking about way more. There's a guy who I know of, he gets $100,000, get this, a day for consulting. Now that's rare. There aren't many $100,000 a day consultants, but this guy gets, his name is Jay Abraham, $100,000 a day for consulting. I don't get that, nowhere near that. But why would you want to give away money? It doesn't make sense. You can bet that when Jay Abraham is talking to people about working with him, he has 100% confidence. The reason people negotiate poorly is because they aren't confident what they have to offer, and that's why they're discounting. And a typical negotiation simply sounds like, hey, can you do better on the price? And the salesperson says, yes. That's not a negotiation. In a true negotiation, we're trying to create a win-win. And we want to avoid simply discounting, dropping price just because somebody asks. By the way, when somebody asks if you can do better on your price, most of the time, it's just a question. I get that all the time, by the way. When I give my number to people, I'd say, I'm very big on metrics, but I don't have an exact number on this, but I'd say 80% of the time, people will say, can you do any better? And my answer is, I'd love to. If I could, I would have given you that price right from the get-go. I guarantee you that this number is the right number. I worked very, very hard, come up with what I believe was the right number for you and for me. If I could have offered less, I would have done that right from the get-go. I don't discount. And by the way, I don't even negotiate. That's how I avoid it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't negotiate. I'm not saying in many industries and in many cultures, it's not expected to negotiate. I'm just telling you I don't. But in the Sales Confidence Lab, we'll certainly be talking about negotiating. The golden rules of negotiating are always get something in return. If you're giving something up, get something back. Don't negotiate against yourself, which I see happening all the time. Salespeople offering to discount. Well, why would you offer to discount if somebody's not asking for it? If you're changing the deal, then you change the price. So in other words, if you have a $50,000 a year program and somebody says, well, I'll pay you 40. Well, don't just say you'll do the same program for 40. If you want that $40,000, then take $10,000 worth of value out of the program. And in any negotiation, you want to make sure that it's a positive outcome for both you and your prospect. They have to walk away feeling good about it, and you have to walk away feeling good about it. The final step in any sales process is closing, which simply means asking people for their business. Now, the goal of any sales process should be to get to the end and have your prospect say to you, well, that sounds good. I want to lose weight and I want to hire you as my weight loss coach, or I want to hire you as my sales trainer. That's the goal. But in almost every case, we need to ask a closing question because there's still that built-in resistance for, ooh, should I do this or not? Now, again, so a percentage of the time you get to the end and people say, sound good, I want this, let's go forward. But quite often we have to ask a closing question. I teach one very straightforward and simple question to ask. And for those of you who are watching this live, you can see it on your screen. I call it the, in my professional opinion, close. And it's simply, I presented my options and the program that I'm going to do for them. And I simply say, Steve, in my professional opinion, that's the plan that makes sense to me and what I believe we should do to move forward. What do you think? And then I shut up and let them respond. And they're either going to say, yes, we should move forward, or no, we shouldn't. And if they say, no, we shouldn't, I'm going to find out what's in the way. If they say, yes, we should, we're going to sign the agreement and we're going to move forward. Before we end today, I want to go over a couple of very quick things. You want to remember that there's the sales cycle, and that's the amount of time it takes you from saying hello to people to them shaking your hand, agreeing to do business. The sales cycle is from hello to closed, but there's also the buying cycle, and that's how long it takes the prospect to make a decision. And I can tell you this, your sales cycle is important to you, but it's not important to your prospect. What's important to them is their buying cycle. So we want to understand what their buying cycle is, and we want to consistently move deals forward. And we want to be nasty. Again, for those of you who are listening and not watching, on the screen, you can see the letters BNASTY, be nasty, which stands for the best next action step towards yes. And it simply means you never leave a meeting or a phone call without setting up the next meeting or phone call right there and then. If you're getting ghosted all the time, it's because you're not getting a next step. You're not being nasty. If you lose a lot of time and a lot of deals by simply not moving them forward quickly. We've got a couple minutes left. I'm going to quickly go over this, then I want to leave you with some information in case you're interested. The traditional approach to handling objections is argumentative, it's confrontational, it doesn't work. When you argue with a prospect, when you are confrontational, they're going to win every battle. It makes them defensive. It puts up their guard, and it's manipulative. What we want to do is we want to understand them. We want to be empathetic, and we want to focus on solving their problem, whatever that objection is, whatever that thing that's in the way of them choosing to do business with us. We want to find out what this is and hopefully help them solve that. So we want to listen carefully to what the objection is. We want to confirm that we understand it by asking them a question to make sure we do. We want to acknowledge the validity of their feelings. And this comes up a lot. We as human beings often invalidate other people's feelings. Like, if you have a kid and your kid says, I'm so upset, and you say to them, don't be upset. Well, I understand where we're coming from as parents because we don't want our children to be upset. But how does somebody who is upset be not upset simply because we told them not to? It doesn't work that way. In fact, it makes them feel worse. So what we want to do is we want to acknowledge the validity of their feelings, whatever they are. We want to isolate the objection to make sure it's the only one in the way, or we want to find out what the other objections are so we can deal with them all at one time. We offer them a solution by telling them a story about somebody else who had a similar objection and how we help them. And then we ask for the close again. And we want to make sure, and I'm looking at my slides and I see some of it's not formatted perfectly. Sorry about that. We do want to make sure that when somebody doesn't close on the spot, we want to stay in touch with them. We want to stay top of mind by nurturing them through calls and emails and follow up appropriately. What we don't want to do is follow up by just checking in. Hey, it's Jeff Goldberg, just checking in with you. Hey, just following up on that proposal. Those voicemails, what those really mean is, hey, did you decide to do business with me and forget to let me know? No, that's not the way it works. When people want to do business with you, they do let you know. So we want to be a resource. We want to truly solve problems for them. And when we're following up, we want to provide real value. And we want to be consistent in our follow-up without being intrusive. So the last slide, which you can't see if you're listening, but it's talking about the Sales Confidence Lab, which starts on July 21st. There's going to be training on everything. We're going to go way more in depth on each of these things. There will be hot seat coaching done for people who are participating. We're going to be doing role playing. Everybody's going to have an accountability partner. Do not even consider investing in this program for yourself, even if you know already that you need it. Don't consider investing in this if you're not willing to play full out. If you're not willing to have an accountability partner, if you're not willing to role play, I understand this stuff is uncomfortable. We're going to do this in a very safe, comfortable atmosphere. There's going to be no more than 99 people. The first 99 people that register are going to get in. I'm going to stop it at that. Maybe there'll be a waiting list for if I do this again, but for this particular program that starts on July 21st, limited to 99 people. I have 50 years of experience doing this, and that's why I am 100% convinced that this is going to work great, and that's why I'm willing to offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. If in the first 30 days, somebody who signs up and registers for this course is unhappy for any reason, money back. I'm 100% committed to your success if you are. So if this sounds like it is of interest to you, you can call me. My number is 516-314 9037. I'll tell you how to register. If you have questions about the program, I'm happy to answer those. You can email me. My email is Jeff, Jeff, at jgsalespro, jgsalespro.com. The Sales Confidence Lab is a group on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, you can join that and reach out to me through that. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm not that hard to find. So if you have an interest in this program, whether it's to register or just ask some questions, please do reach out to me. And that's what I've got for you today. And boy, oh boy, I'm looking at 59 minutes and 42 seconds. I am very pleased with myself today. I hope this provided some value for you. If you're interested in the Sales Confidence Lab, let me know, and I will end as I always do. Oh, actually, before I end as I always do, please let me say, for those of you who are dads, have a very happy Father's Day. And now I'll end as I always do by saying this. Sales is a game, whether you're a professional salesperson or a non-traditional salesperson. Sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend and a great Father's Day for those of you who are fathers. Have a great weekend, everybody else. I'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.